Think about this as the next phase as Russia continues to crank up the pressure and its preparations for what they might do should Ukraine fail, or should the Russians perceive that the United States is not committed to Europe and that Europe is not ready. I mean, this has been going on for a couple of years, of course. These airspace violations, aggression out in the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea, and all the other things that are sort of put under the gray zone category. But ever since this embarrassing meeting in Alaska between Putin and Trump, it's gotten worse. I mean, significantly worse. The attacks on Ukraine have gone up dramatically. And then, of course, as you've talked about, these three Russian aircraft spent 12 minutes in Estonian airspace. The operation in which Russia launched 21 drones against Poland, despite the fact that there are 10,000 American troops in Poland. This is the result of us, the collective us, failing to inflict any real consequences on Russia for all the things they've done, and their confidence that we never will actually do anything.
Which makes sense. One question that I had after seeing all this, and also after seeing the strike in Qatar, and you've been at the head of the U.S. Army Europe, how does the shoot down protocol work? Like, because we have air defenses in Poland, if I remember correctly, we have air defenses in Qatar, and I'm sure the radar picks up anything that's coming up, right? Like, so how does the shoot down work? Do the people managing the air defenses don't have permission to shoot anything down? They have to go up the chain and back down again? Like, how would that work?
Well, look, great question. Of course, it's not up to just any individual soldier to decide whether or not to shoot something down. So we have what's called rules of engagement. The rules that tell you when you can use deadly force, or what you should do in different scenarios. And of course, American soldiers and most other soldiers always have the right for self-defense. But the idea of shooting down an aircraft or even a drone that enters your airspace, that has to be thought through. Now, the alliance and our nations have been talking about this for a long time. The deployment of the Operation Eastern Century will increase the readiness and awareness of all of our air defenders and air forces along NATO's eastern flank. I think that they're going to change the Baltic Sea and Black Sea air policing missions into air defense, which gives them more authority to use force. But what we really have to do before we get to what I think we should do, which is be willing to shoot down any aircraft after they've been warned and they still do it, then they should be shot down. Definitely drones too. But our leaders need to make this clear to the Russians that this is what's going to happen. Now, you don't have to shoot down every plane that violates airspace, because there will be the occasional mistake, and you never want to make a mistake with something like this. But the Russians see that we're not going to do it, and so they will keep pushing and pushing. In addition to shooting down one of these things, again, that's my preferred option. You could inflict some other kind of pain, economic pain. You tell the Russians every time you violate airspace, that's another, whether it's frozen assets that are taken or another Russian shadow fleet vessel that's going to be seized or some other thing. Or maybe it's an additional package of aid that goes directly to Ukraine. They have to feel some consequence for these continuous violations. And right now, I think they feel pretty confident they're not going to do it. Bottom line, there is a chain of command that goes up that can happen very quick. You've got radar mission command systems that go to NATO's Allied Air Command and U.S. Air Force Europe there in Ramstein, Germany. So it can happen very quickly. They just need to know they have the political approval to do that.
That makes sense. And I'm sure you saw this too. And after the Poland, 19 drones went into Poland, we saw this. And after the jets went into Estonia, we're seeing this everywhere, where everyone's calling for NATO to do what Turkey did back in 2015, just shoot it down. So I was just looking at that situation, and it seems like Russia violated the Turkey airspace 5 times the month before, and Turkey changed their rules of engagement, and then they shot it down. So I'm guessing that's what's something that was discussed at the Article 4 meeting, where they're like, okay, maybe the next one or the one after that, where we'll shoot it down.
Well, the worst thing in the world would be to talk a lot about it and then never do anything about it. And that's what the Russians are counting on, is that there'll be a lot of talk and a lot of people shaking their fists. We have to do something about it. And then we actually never will. Not because people are stupid, but because they are naive enough to think that Russia really is reasonable. And this is just, being provocative, but it's never going to stop. And one of these days, you have an accident. Something happens. Innocent people get killed. I mean, these 21 drones that landed in Poland, none of them had a warhead, but each of them could have landed on somebody's house or their car, when I think actually one of them that was destroyed by the Poles, pieces of it did fall down and destroy somebody's roof. I mean, so this is not some innocent, softball thing. This is real danger. And the Russians continuously are putting our civilians at risk. Plus, they're learning. Each time they do this, they can gauge how effective our responses are, how quickly, how would we do it, and so on. So I think the Russians, of course, they will raise hell about it. They'll complain. They'll all kinds of accusations, etc., as they normally do. So what? We should be prepared for that. We should have and I imagine the alliance does, but we should have a communication strategy already set, which includes upfront saying this is no longer going to be tolerated. And then after we inflict consequences, message goes out right away. If you don't do that, then you allow the Russians to control the narrative.